At this point, A.J. Brown, in your mind, if I say other than the Patriots, do you think there's still an open door where he goes somewhere other than New England?
Oh, of course, there's an open door, Sean. And good morning, Sean. Good morning, Caroline. There's definitely an open door until a deal is done. I would agree with Mike G on that point. You know, the compensation has moved. It moved from two number ones in 2027 draft to maybe a number two in the 27 draft. And now all the conversation centers around whether the Patriots will give up a first round pick in the 2028 draft for A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown will enter his 31st age in the NFL. He'll be 31 years old, and will he even be on the New England Patriots roster when the Eagles finally reap that compensation? So clearly, you have to have the right deal for A.J. Brown. And congratulations to A.J. Brown. I did see on social media that he got married, and that's good for him. I mean, I've interviewed him many times, and I've always found him to be a real stand-up guy. He's very popular in the locker room, in the building in South Philadelphia, and he will definitely be missed. He was a popular player in Philadelphia, no question about that, and a good player. He had a bad postseason, no question about it. He clearly wants out. It's kind of sad for the Patriots that they have to wait to get him. It's sad for Brown that he's not involved in the offseason programs now. And of course, for the Eagles, if they don't get any kind of compensation until 2028, that's not the optimum situation for Philadelphia either.
Before we get more into what a realistic trade could look like and AJ Brown's future, you bring up his wedding. Congratulations to AJ Brown, looked beautiful. But there has been a lot of speculation on social media about Jalen Hurts not being in attendance at AJ Brown's wedding. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, Jalen Hurts is involved in the offseason program with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with, players and whether or not they're available to go to weddings. But, I would like to echo what you said, Caroline. Congratulations to A.J. Brown. I'm a big believer in shalom in the home. You got to have your house in order to be good at your job. I've always believed that. And I think that's true in your family, in your locker room, in your business. I was in the military. I always preach that as an officer in the military. You got to make sure that you're taking care of your family first. And I'm glad for A.J. Brown. Congratulations to him. And I hope that the compensation comes down the pike quickly so that he can join a team because he's a good player and he's a good teammate and he will make the New England Patriots better.
How did we get here with A.J. Brown to the point that, because you said a couple of times, Sal Pal, he's a good player. They need good players. How did we get to the point where they just can't come together on this?
Well, there's a lot of water under that bridge, Sean. Disagreements over the number of passes in the passing game, whether he was getting his touches, that sort of thing. I mean, you got to look at the National Football League and where it is right now. Last year, NFL teams scored 25.3 points per game. That is a 5-year high. Points come out of the passing game in the National Football League. And you look at the 3 division winners who scored under 400 points. 400 points is the demarcation line, usually, to get to the postseason and advance. And the 3 teams that won their division under 400 points were the Eagles, the Panthers, and the Steelers. So the Eagles clearly know that they got to get their point production up. That's why they changed offensive coordinators to Sean Mannion. That's why they're changing the offense. That's why they went out and got themselves a playmaker in Mekhi Lemon. Clearly, they understand that they must get better on offense. You really only have to look as far as the last 2 NBA postseason games to understand the importance of playmakers. Victor Wembanyama goes off in overtime. San Antonio beats the defending champs, the Thunder, in overtime. And then last night, Jalen Brunson, superior matchup against James Harden. And the Knicks come back from, 22 down to win that game. in professional sports at this level, when you're getting to the postseason, you need superior playmakers that create favorable, dominant matchups. That was clear in the NBA in the last 2 games. It's clear in the National Football League. That's what you have to have. That's why I'm involved with the matchup show. And that's why I think A.J. Brown is going to be good for New England. They didn't have that in the Super Bowl. They only scored 13 points in the Super Bowl. That's 12 points less than the team average per team this year per game because they didn't have matchups against the Seattle Seahawks defense. So A.J. Brown's going to help the Patriots. The changes on offense will presumably help the Eagles. But the other thing, too, is, Sean and Caroline, you look at the National Football League right now, 65% of the teams, 21 out of 32, have changed offensive coordinators this offseason. Wrap your head around that. That's incredible. So you have incredible volatility in the most important aspect of the game in the National Football League. And the reason is there's so much pressure on these head coaches and quarterbacks to keep up with the Joneses around the league. Those teams that can score at will. Got to be able to do it. If you don't, you're going to get blown out in the Super Bowl like Seattle blew out New England or the Eagles blew out the Chiefs 2 years ago.
You say A.J. Brown will help the New England Patriots, almost like it's as close to a done deal as it can be on May 20th. What has to happen in order for A.J. Brown to not be a New England Patriot?
Well, the general manager of the New England Patriots, Elliott Wolf, son of Ron Wolf, Hall of Famer, has got to call up Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, and say, timeout, cuz. We don't know if we really want to give up a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. And then Howie Roseman says, well, I have other suitors. And then Wolf calls his bluff, right? And says, okay, go out there and see if you can get a first-round pick and come back to us when you want to get real. I mean, that's the way this could happen. But I believe he'll be with the New England Patriots in the end. I'm giving it an 85% chance he'll be with the New England Patriots. And the only thing that could go wrong is the negotiations could get really squirrely between the two GMs in New England and Philadelphia, which I don't think will happen. These guys are two professionals. Brown is prepared to go to New England and rejoin Mike Vrabel. I'm not saying it's a fait accompli because you never say never in the NFL, as I started off this commentary. But to me, I think he's going to New England.
So what's the ceiling, post A.J. Brown, what's the ceiling for this Eagles team?
What's the ceiling for what, Sean?
For the Eagles team. How good is this Eagles team without A.J. Brown in this NFC?
Sean, you want to hear my notes on the NFL schedule release? You ready, baby?
Yes, let's go.
Let's go. All right. This season, the Eagles have the easiest strength of schedule of any NFC team that made the playoffs last year. Let me repeat that. This is a team that won back-to-back division champions and should have a harder schedule. The Eagles have the easiest strength of schedule of any of the NFC teams that made the playoffs last year. I think that should allow Philadelphia, even with all of the changes on offense, to win the division for a third straight year and be in serious contention. Let me say that specifically, serious contention for the number one seed in the NFC at the end of the year. How about that, Sean?
I mean,
Yeah, I'm stunned. But it is interesting to me, though, because I feel like we become so obsessed with the conversation about the Rams and, to a degree, the conversation about the Seahawks that we don't necessarily talk about the Eagles in the same light. And it feels like even Sirianni, like some years we walk in and it's like, this is the greatest coach. And some years we walk in and this guy's a bum. And I'm trying to find where normal lies for this team. Where is that normal spot?
Well, Sean, you're absolutely right about Seattle and Los Angeles and San Francisco, to a lesser degree, Green Bay, clearly the Dallas Cowboys. I think if you look at the NFC, those are the teams where the championship window is open. Obviously, I'm leaving out Chicago, but you have to add the Bears to that too. Championship window open, and we could enumerate the reasons for all of those teams. In the AFC, championship window absolutely open for the Cincinnati Bengals. Getting Dexter Lawrence to play in the middle of that defensive line, attack the quarterback up the middle, where you have changes at the head coaching position in Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Caroline was just talking about the ineptness of the Kansas City offense. Now they're going to get Patrick Mahomes back. What kind of condition is he going to be in? So to me, the Bengals, who have, and I'm a big believer in strength of schedule, the third easiest schedule in the NFL, with Joe Burrow healthy, Dexter Lawrence playing on defense. So to me, I'm looking at the Bengals. I'm definitely looking at the Broncos. I'm definitely looking at the Chargers, where the championship window is wide open in the AFC, wide open.
So we spent a lot of time focusing on the Eagles offense, which is going to be fascinating to follow throughout the course of the season. But the Eagles defense made some changes as well. They moved on from Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean, and Jalen Phillips. We've heard some reports that Vic Fangio is flirting with retirement. So what do you expect to see from that side of the football, which has been a huge positive for this team over the last several years?
Oh, Caroline, I love when you fire Eagles questions at me. Let's go through them. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Number one, Vic Fangio's coming back, and that's a bad news for the rest of the National Football League. Okay, they know he knows what he's doing, and he's very good at solving matchup problems that other teams present without blitzing the quarterback. Rush 4, drop 7. Let's go play football. Let's play cover and make sure our pass rush gets home. We pepper in some blitzes off the corner. I think they have two of the best corners in the National Football League in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Fangio knows how to deploy this defense. They did lose Phillips, but they got Grenard in that trade with the Vikings, signed him to a big deal. I think that's going to be fine. I think the biggest thing that you mentioned was right off the top, and the loss of Reed Blankenship. Heat-seeking missile, loves the football, goes and finds it. I believe that they will have to bolster the safety position sometime this summer to really round out a defense that still is going to be one of the dominant in the NFC.